Only the Brave. Chapter 19. Halloween. Interlude. Dorcas is Poe. Dorcas is nervous. She's nervous because she's convinced her friends to come to this party with her so she can introduce them to Merlin. In her head, this was a brilliant idea. A natural step, because they've been doing this for 3 weeks and Dorcas has already met Merlin's friends. So, except Dorcas apparently forgot her friends are allergic to socializing. She can't put all the blame on them, though. Perhaps this party wasn't the best setting. She should have considered that they've 3 awkward Slytherins in a sea of Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, and Hufflepuff. Quite literally, no one else from their house is here because they have their own Halloween tradition in the dungeons. Pandora is with her divination crowd, and she's obviously oblivious to how much Regulus, Barty, and Evan are standing out. They're near a glass wall. Greenhouse for a party is a goal setting, she'll give them that. Arms over their chest and skeptical looks on their faces. Regulus is of course scowling. It wasn't easy to convince him to get into a costume. Dorcas had a hell of a time with it. She scans the greenhouse one more time to confirm that Merlin hasn't arrived yet. None of the 7th-year Gryffindors have. Fidgeting with the fake sword strapped to the back of her Wonder Woman costume, she bites her lower lip. Dorcas hopes Merlin likes her fancy dress. They were all her idea. As in, Dorcas came up with all the costumes for herself and her friends, based on comics that she sneaks into Muggle London to read when she can. Barty is in a Wolverine outfit, which looks a little big on him, but is otherwise quite flattering. Dorcas has caught Evan staring at Barty's butt 8 times already, and they've literally only just arrived 2 minutes ago. Evan is Batman, and he keeps complaining about the mask hurting his nose. Barty uses this excuse to touch Evan's face at all times. Honestly, they're adorable in their awkwardness. She's very happy for her friends. Barty and Evan make a good couple, she thinks. Evan soothes Barty's roughest edges. Dorcas is particularly proud of Regulus's costume because he looks ridiculous in it. Hands down, swoon-worthy. If Dorcas wasn't gay, she'd hit that, for real. He's dressed as the Green Arrow, which was 100% deliberate on her part because the dark greens and black combination brings out the color of his eyes. It took her close to 2 hours of loud, relentless arguing before Regulus gave in and put it on. Every single minute was worth it. Dorcas highly suspects Regulus has a crush on James Potter, and she'll be damned if she's not going to help him get his attention any way she can. She tailored the costume so it fits Regulus almost perfectly, and even used her eyeliner to smudge some kohl around his eyes. Regulus looks dangerous, and it suits him. This made her a little sad because Dorcas doesn't want Regulus to give in to the dark side, but it makes him look hot, so for tonight she'll ignore that and just hope James agrees Regulus looks like a snack. "I want a drink," Barty says. "I'm going to get a drink." "I'll go with you," Dorcas volunteers. "Reg?" "Not drinking," he says. Barty and Evan roll their eyes. "How are you going to go through this sober?" Evan asks him, gesturing around. People are pouring in by the second, crowding the rooms. There is music blasting and some kids are already dancing. Costumes range from the scary and grotesque to the detailed and accurate to the scandalously scant. There's a bit of everything and Dorcas quite likes it. She understands his friends perhaps do not. "I am not drinking," Regulus insists, and then something catches his eye behind them. A glint flashes in them and he does a complete U-turn. "Fire whiskey. Get me fire whiskey." Dorcas looks over her shoulder and smirks. The Gryffindors have a right. Mary and Lily are first, wearing matching Barbie-inspired costumes. They look very good, and Dorcas is momentarily annoyed, because if Lily Evans wasn't so pretty, she would be no competition for Regulus. But she is beautiful, and Dorcas resents her for it. She wants James for her best friend. Speaking of, James is with Peter, Sirius, and Remus, and they're all in Rome or Greece-inspired costumes, like warrior style. It's both very cool and quite hilarious. They're wearing what Dorcas can only refer to as skirts with different types of sandals. They also have fake swords strapped to their waists and armor attached to their torsos. James has a shield. Merlin brings up the rear, and when she steps to the side in a black canary costume, Dorcas speaks over her shoulder because she's already moving. Desperate to get to her girlfriend's side. Evan, help Barty get the drinks, will you? I'm going to say hi to Marlene. Be right back. Marlene's body is wrapped in a black suit that shows off her curves so exquisitely. She's about to start drooling. Marlene moves with purpose, like she's not afraid to take up space in the world, and Dorcas thinks that's sexy, because too many girls make themselves small, quiet, pliant. Not Marlene. Marlene is a menace, and she's proud of it. Salazar escaped on a pole. Dorcas is head over heels gone for her. Marlene's eyes light up when she sees Dorcas approaching, and Dorcas's stomach fills with butterflies. She's a living cliché, but she simply doesn't care. Marlene is the most amazing woman to ever grace the world, and she's Dorcas's girlfriend. She's allowed to be cliché about it. You shouldn't have worn that, Marlene says, as soon as Dorcas is within hearing range, catching her arm and pulling her in close to whisper in her ear. I'm not going to be able to control myself. Marlene smells glorious, like patchouli and wind. Dorcas's knee go weak. Sirius looks over at them, then gets his friend's attention. They must have agreed this beforehand, because suddenly Dorcas is surrounded by the Greek military. No one bats an eye or asks any questions. They just cover them, tight formation of fake shields and swords. Be quick, Sirius says. Someone might notice. Marlene kisses Dorcas full on the mouth, and she could fucking fly. It's a quick kiss, though, but urgent, because this is dangerous and reckless, and Dorcas loves Marlene because this is just how she is. You look amazing, Dorcas tells her when they break apart. Marlene beams, then looks at the boys and thanks them for their help. Remus salutes them. Peter winks. James smiles at them, and it strikes Dorcas as a little sad. She wonders why. Remus and Peter offer to go get drinks for them, but Marlene insists that she has to get Dorcas a drink herself as a good girlfriend, so she follows them to the table, leaving Dorcas with James and Sirius. She has half a mind to ask James if he's alright when Sirius makes a strangled noise like he's choking on air. He's wearing a costume? Dorcas knows who he's referring to, so instead of following Sirius's line of sight, Dorcas looks right at James. The first thing Dorcas thinks is that James needs to work on is his poker face. Because he's so fucking transparent, Dorcas can tell his thoughts have taken an instant and abrupt turn to the gutter. She can't blame him. Regulus looks fucking delicious. She made sure of it herself. But James looks like he's been struck by lightning. Dorcas cannot wait to tell Regulus that his crush on James is very much requited. If that's not lost on James's face, Dorcas will kiss the giant squid. Bronx, for fuck's sake, Sirius says, full on punching him on the shoulder. James blinks. He doesn't look away from Regulus. He does, however, close his mouth, though there is progress. Dorcas doesn't know he would, because James is apparently incapable of speech. This is the most fun she'd had in a long time. Are you alright, James? Dorcas asks him innocently. She looks toward Regulus, pretends she's only just clocked who they talking about. Ah, yeah, Reg looks good, doesn't he? It took me a while to persuade him to wear the costume, but I think it was worth it. Sirius scowls at Dorcas. Does he know that's a Muggle character he's dressed as? Of course he does, Dorcas replies defensively. He knows I like comics. That's not why he didn't want to wear the costume. Why didn't he want to wear it? James asked. It's more of a wheeze, but at least he's formed a full, coherent sentence, so Dorcas won't get particular about the pitch of it. He didn't want to wear a costume. Full stop. Thinks it's silly, Dorcas explains. James steers his gaze away from Regulus for the first time and looks immediately concerned by this news. Big hazel eyes turn to Dorcas. He thinks costumes are silly. Sirius rolls his eyes, shakes his head. We do not care what my brother thinks, he says threateningly. James signs, but nods and accepts defeat. Dorcas gets the sense that Sirius knows James is crushing on Regulus. If he didn't, he must have learned it right now, because James is nothing if not fucking obvious. Marlene returns and hands Dorcas a drink. Their fingers touch and linger as long as they can without it becoming a dead giveaway. It sucks that they have to be careful, to hide behind friends or closed doors. But Dorcas is genuinely grateful by how amazing Marlene's friends are about it all. It would be 10 times more difficult if they weren't willing to help them at all times. Marlene leans against the wall and tugs on the waistband of Dorcas's skirt to bring her close. James is serious at talking now with Remus and Peter, the four of them in a little circle while they sip on their drinks. Dorcas notices James positions himself so he can still glances at Regulus at every now and then. "I hate this," Marlene says, all of a sudden. "What?" "That I can't kiss you like I want to, without needing a wall of boys to protect us," Marlene explains. Dorcas smiles, nudges her shoulder. "I know, but also, I like that it's just for us when we do that." Marlene fights the smile on her face and loses. "You Dorcas Meadows are a romantic." "And proud of it," Dorcas says with flair. Marlene shakes her head, but she's beaming and blushing a little bit, and Dorcas feels like she's won a lottery prize. "Come on," Marlene says. She takes Dorcas's hand and interlaces their fingers together. This they can't do, because girls holding hands is something society has always chosen to overlook as simple friendship. Small wins. "We can't kiss, but we can dance." Dorcas follows her to the dance floor. She'll follow Marlene everywhere, Dorcas thinks. Anywhere and everywhere. To the ends of the earth. Dorcas has never felt anything like this before, and she's smart enough to be able to tell when she's got something special. Marlene is one of a kind, and she's decided she likes Dorcas, and Dorcas will do just about anything to keep it that way. Regulus can feel James looking. He can feel it on his skin, heating up like he's being touched, even though he's not. It's a little mean, perhaps, but he purposefully keeps his eyes away for a short while. Something inside of Regulus is still in awe that one James Potter is paying attention to him, that he's interested. Regulus is kind of half waiting for James to realize that he could have anyone, so why would he have Regulus? But while he's got his attention, Regulus will try to keep it, and he's already noticed James likes it when he's a little mean to him. So he lets James look at him but doesn't look back. Not yet. He focuses on the awareness of James, tuning out everything else. This party is horrible. Honestly, Regulus' worst nightmare. There are way too many people, more than at the Forbidden Forest. They're all dancing aggressively and talking way too loudly, which mixed with the music is already giving Regulus a headache, and he hasn't been here for 10 minutes. Whenever someone new arrives, they run around like a headless chicken until they find their friends. At this point, there is a lot of hysterical gesticulation, like fake compliments about costumes that aren't really worth anything in Regulus' opinion. He can't tell what it is that most people are wearing, which is mildly infuriating because he thought he was pretty up to date on Muggle culture. Apparently not. He wouldn't even know his own costume if Dorcas hadn't given him a crash course on it. Apparently Regulus is impersonating a very rich guy who's extremely skilled with a bow and arrow in a fictional city with a severe crime problem, a vigilante sort of character. This Regulus secretly likes, even though he made sure to refuse the costume for long enough that no one has any doubts he's wearing it against his will. There is one person dressed as Death Vader that Regulus thinks deserves hype. Everyone else was lazy or slutty or both. The amount of boobs he's already seen is alarming. He's starting to suspect some of it hasn't been accidental, which is frankly terrifying. When Regulus spots Barty and Evan making their way back to him with the drinks, he finally glances over at James, so he gets time to stare before his friends are close enough to notice it. It's a good thing Regulus is leaning against the wall, because who the fuck allowed James to show himself in public with bare legs? As if his thighs weren't a safety hazard covered by fabric. There is no... Regulus he can't do this. They're just there, staring at him. All brown skin over delicious muscles, and Regulus remembers last night, and that thigh was... Salazar, have mercy on him, he's going to have a stroke. "Why do you look disgusted?" Evan asks, handing him a drink. Regulus takes it by inertia. His brain isn't functioning. It's currently scattered over the ceiling because it exploded the moment Regulus laid eyes on James Potter wearing armor. He's not mistaken, it's Greek-inspired. "It's annoying your fucking brother can make a skirt work," Barty says, following Regulus' line of sight but missing his target completely. "Black jeans, eh?" Evan hums appreciatively. "Tragic that someone so hot is such a disgrace." Regulus hadn't even seen Sirius, but now that Barty points it out, he notices that Sirius is wearing Greek armor too, same as Lupin and Pettigrew. They don't hold a candle to James. Honestly, they should have worn something different. They're embarrassing themselves by even trying to compete. James is a fucking god, and everyone else should just go home and leave Regulus alone with him so they can practice more of what they did on that roof last night. It's not a skirt, Regulus says, because he has to say something or his friends are going to become suspicious. It's the uniform of a Greek soldier. Calm down, encyclopedia, Barty snorts. Regulus rolls his eyes, but shakes a knowing hawk smirk with Barty. Alright, boys. On your best behavior, Dorcas is bringing Marlene over, Evan announces. All three of them straighten. This is important. Dorcas wants Marlene to like them, which Regulus thinks is a lost cause, honestly, because they're all walking disasters and socially impaired, but they promised they would try. For Dorcas, he will. Marlene is wearing some sort of black jumpsuit that fits her body quite well, Regulus thinks. She did a good job. Neither lazy nor slutty, points to Marlene. Dorcas has almost reached them, and Regulus is preparing himself to be polite to the Gryffindor beater when James turns and they lock eyes. He doesn't even have to think about it. Regulus' hand lifts and he puts 2 fingers over his left arm, where the star James drew rests on his skin. James has done the same, and even though neither of them can smile, Regulus reads the joy in James's eyes. He is a hopeless romantic, and Regulus cannot get enough of it. Unfortunately, he has to look away to greet his best friend and the girl walking closely behind her, watching them with wary eyes. Everyone, Dorcas announces. She's a little nervous, and Regulus hates that they make her feel this way. She should know they'll do their best for her, because she's Dorcas and deserves joy. This is Marlene. Marlene, these are Barty, Evan, and Regulus. Regulus nods toward the blonde. Everyone mutters a chorus of hi, shuffles their feet a little. Evan tries to make a small talk about the weather, which works for about 1 whole minute before it all dies down. There's awkward silence for a beat before Marlene turns to face Regulus. She stares at him with her chin raised and the glint of a challenge in her eyes, which Regulus isn't sure how to take, but he's Regulus Black, so he won't be outdone by a measly beater. So he stares back head-on, haughty look about him, because even though he does his level best to never think about this fact, he is magical aristocracy, and on occasion it comes in handy. You're Dorcas's best friend, Marlene says. Good. You know who'll come after you if you hurt her, Regulus says. Reg, Dorcas protests. Marlene isn't bothered. She nods solemnly, lips pursed like this is a serious matter, which it is. Regulus doesn't take Dorcas's emotional well-being lightly, and then says, I understand I'm not allowed to hug you. Not if you want to keep your arms, Regulus replies. Dorcas throws her arms up. Don't threaten her, Marlene smiles. I like him, she says to no one in particular. Then to Regulus she adds, thank you for sorting out her roommates before I barged in there with my bat. Saved me a lot of trouble. Barty chortles and Evan whistles like he's impressed. Regulus steals his hat, regarding Marlene with a calculating look. She meets it and holds it. Marlene is brave in fears. She a little unhinged, apparently. Regulus isn't sure if the bad comment is just tough talk or if she'd do it, but the look in her eyes makes him think perhaps for Dorcas she actually would. Regulus decides he likes her. I prefer more elegant methods, Regulus says, but fine, so long as you're taking good care of her. There's a solemn sort of pause where Marlene and Regulus seize each other up and acknowledge that they both just want Dorcas safe. Then Marlene smiles, turns to Evan and hugs him. This is apparently how one hugs Regulus Black, she says, sounding amused. So, Evan laughs, shaking his head. Dorcas lets out a long breath of relief. After that, things are easier. They talk about Quidditch because it's a safe topic. Marlene is a good beater and all the boys love the sport. They discuss the Quidditch League and Barty finds out he supports the same team as Marlene, which leads to them bonding when they start to sing the supporting chants. Evan looks at Barty, smiling softly at the sight of his boyfriend, swaying with Marlene and absolutely butchering a song because Barty cannot sing to save his life. Dorcas sidles up to Regulus. So, she says, coming up as close as she can without actually touching him. "You've got some attention tonight." Regulus looks at her, blinks very fast twice, then scowls. "What?" "I'm going to go ahead and skip the various groups of girls who cannot stop staring because we know you're not interested," Dorcas mutters. She's smiling mischievously and it makes Regulus a little nervous. "But there is a certain boy who almost had an aneurysm when he saw you." "What? Who?" Regulus looks around, curious. He's never caught anyone's attention before, not in the way Dorcas is suggesting. "Why do you sound so surprised?" Regulus shrugs. Dorcas' smile softens. "Reg, you're actually really good looking, and you don't notice it, but people do stare at you. Especially this year," she says. "It's just mostly girls, so I don't point it out, but maybe I should." "Dorcas, I do not care." He doesn't, honestly. Regulus has never been vain, never been concerned with whether he's catching attention. He's always thought it would be nice in the sense that he's been curious about kissing and sex and that sort of thing, but he's not his brother. Regulus he doesn't want attention. He prefers to go unnoticed. It makes it easier to move the pieces of his revenge puzzle to position. "Oh, well then, I won't tell you how James Potter was practically drooling when he saw you," Dorcas says, flicking her braids over her shoulder. "Since you're so not interested." Regulus glances over the party, Evan and Merlin, but they're not listening. There's more Quidditch chanting going on, now aided by shots that someone, Regulus's money is on Evan, has procured. "I don't care," Regulus hisses. But Dorcas isn't having it. She gives Regulus a knowing look and steps closer so she can pitch her voice down. "Come on, Reg. I know you. You got a crush on that guy, and I'm here to give you the good news that I think he likes you too." Reg wants to tell Dorcas. He wants to because this is something he's never had before, and he'll only have it for a relatively short time, and he thinks that talking about it with your best friend can only enhance the experience. But first of all, he doesn't think a random party full of people is the right place to say anything. Second of all, the saying part is the problem. He can't put it into words. So Regulus downs the fire whiskey in his glass and then gestures at the green drinks table. "Refill?" Dorcas rolls her eyes, then nods. "Hey, Miles," she calls to her girlfriend. "I'm getting a refill with Reg. You alright?" Marlene beams and nods, throwing her arms over Barty and Evan. "Love your friends." Barty and Evan preen. Regulus rolls his eyes, but Dorcas looks so happy it's all worth it. They leave the three of them by the wall and venture into the sea of people so they can get the drinks table. Regulus realizes immediately that this is a mistake. He's swallowed by a crowd that feels as though it has a life on its own. People seem to have lost control of their limbs. There are arms and hands and legs everywhere, and they keep bumping into Regulus and touching him. He hates it, hates it, hates it. Regulus' lungs are crumbling on themselves because he's being touched everywhere by people he doesn't know or like or has given permission to. It's asphyxiated and he feels trapped. It's making his head dizzy. The music is too loud and the air is stale and heavy with alcohol and sweat. Regulus forces himself to push on because the alternative is to faint in the middle of the dance floor, and he will not show that sort of weakness. He cannot afford it. Regulus Black isn't weak. Not now, not ever. It's a Herculean effort, but he manages it. One step after the other, pushing back against a dark spot in his vision, Regulus cuts through the crowd. By the time he emerges on the other end and comes to stand next to the table, Regulus is ready to leave this party and never come to another one again. "You okay?" Dorcas asks. "Too many bodies," Regulus replies. Dorcas understands. She looks around and points to a pocket of space near a window. "Wait for me there. I'll bring you fire whiskey." Regulus is internally grateful for her. He slips away so quickly he could have apparated. Once he's by the glass casing of the greenhouse in a pocket of empty space with no other people, he feels he can breathe again. The room still smells pretty awful and he wishes he could leave, but Regulus isn't actively suffering anymore. He signs and leans against the smooth glass of the wall, searching the party for James again. It's dangerous because anyone could notice that he is looking at him, but Regulus is counting on the alcohol impairing people's cognitive function. He finds Pandora first, dancing with her roommates in Ravenclaw. Her eyes are closed and her face turned up to the ceiling. He did ask her about her strange reaction to the mark on the paper the other day, but she only told him to trust her. This did not go well with Regulus, who harassed Pandora until she admitted she'd given James a warning about one of her dreams. Regulus insisted on hearing it too, but Pandora drew the line at that. She invoked the possibility of James getting hurt if Regulus meddled with her omens, and he relented. At least James has been warned. Regulus hopes that, plus his consent, vigilance are enough. James is with his friends, talking animatedly about Salazar knows what. Regulus watches him say something that must be funny because everyone laughs. Lily Evans harder than the rest. Regulus suspects she likes James. He heard her gossiping with her friends at the beginning of the year, right? And she definitely wanted to ask James out, so she must like him. But he's trying not to fixate on that because James told him he shouldn't be jealous, and Regulus believes James. Except, well, Lily is beautiful, objectively, and Regulus knows she's smart as fuck. She's a muggle-born, but James doesn't care about that sort of thing, so genuinely Lily is the perfect girl for James. She's also light, happy, joyful, pure. Regulus doesn't understand how James isn't with her. When the choice is Regulus or Lily, Regulus would pick Lily every time, because she can give James things he can't. Lily isn't on a ticking clock. She isn't plotting murder and revenge. She can give him children if that's something James wants. Lily gets along with James's friends, all of them. Sirius wouldn't have a problem with her. Lily is so much better than Regulus for James, and what if James realizes this before Easter? Regulus isn't sure how he'll cope. He wants these mounts, just 5 of them, for him, with James, to get everything he ever wanted, so when the war swallows him whole, he's at least known what's it like. The spiraling of his thoughts is interrupted by 2 things. First, Dorcas arrives with the drinks. He takes it from her and thanks her, taking a sip. Second, the music changes to ABBA's Dancing Queen comes on. Regulus's head whips around to watch as James throws his arm up in the air, lets out a cry of pure ecstasy, and drags Sirius to the dance floor. They're having so much fun, Regulus feels like he's absorbing some of it by osmosis. Their joy is so genuine it permeates everything and everyone around them. People turn to watch or to join in their fun, and it's like a ripple spreading through the crowd. Everyone is suddenly possessed by the spirit of ABBA. Regulus hates dancing, but for some reason he wants to join. He wishes he could, if bodies didn't freak him out and crowds didn't make him feel like he's drowning. A girl Regulus doesn't recognize shows up and takes Sirius by the waist. She doesn't even ask, but Sirius doesn't seem to mind, and now they're dancing so close it's uncomfortable for Regulus to watch. James rolls his eyes at his friend, then keeps giving his all to his rendition of Dancing Queen. And James is singing and dancing and having the time of his life, but he's also searching for him. Regulus knows because when James finds him, he stops turning and just sings and dances on the spot, facing him across the room, casually touching the scar on his left arm like it doesn't make Regulus's knees weak every single time. "Oh wow, that escalated quickly," Dorcas says suddenly. Regulus snaps back to reality, panicked that perhaps he was being too obvious, but Dorcas is looking at the dance floor, not at him. "Guess I was wrong and he doesn't have a boyfriend, huh?" Regulus follows her line of sight and finds his brother full on making out with the girl. He's pretty sure that was a flash of tongue he just saw. Salazar sucks. It's disgusting. They're surrounded by people. Does he not have any manners whatsoever? Their mother would be horrified, which Regulus guesses was always kind of the point to anything Sirius did. Regulus can feel his face crunching into a scowl of disgust. He's surprised despite everything. Surprised because deep down he was hoping Dorcas was right and his brother was like him. What a stupid thing to hope for. It's not like it would ever change anything for them because Sirius left and Regulus stayed behind. Bones and cold and pain. And yet, somewhere inside of him, Regulus had unknowingly held on to the thought that if his brother was like him, then there was something that bound them together. something they didn't have to acknowledge because there would never be that for them again, but the idea of it existing would be enough. And now Sirius is obliterating that on a dance floor by sticking his tongue down some girl's throat, and Regulus feels sick and stupid and pathetic because he should have known better. Out of the corner of his eye, Regulus sees the moment James notices Regulus hasn't been paying him attention for a little while. He glances around and finds Sirius still kissing this girl. Regulus immediately knows something is up. James frowns and looks a little concerned, which makes no sense because surely James shouldn't give a damn who Sirius fools around with. His questions are answered when James abandons the dance floor even though his song hasn't ended yet. Regulus has just about enough time to go on his tiptoes and see him leave the party right behind Lupin, who's essentially sprinting away. And Regulus has to know, he wants to know, so in a split second he decides he's going to follow them. "I'll see you later," Regulus says to Dorcas. Dorcas puts her half-empty drink down, blinking at Regulus with mild surprise. "Where are you going?" Regulus gestured to the exit. "Need to get away from people. Don't know if I'll come back." Dorcas signs, drops her shoulders a little bit. "Fine, I guess. Well, thanks for coming with me." Regulus is in a hurry, but this is Dorcas, his best friend, he thinks. And this night mattered to her a lot. So Regulus pauses, looks at her. "I like Marlene." "Don't tell her I said that. I'll deny it to my last breath." Dorcas laughs, and it's amazing. With that, he thinks he's done what a good friend would have. Dorcas doesn't stop him when he turns and leaves. Then that's how Regulus finds himself chasing after James Potter and, in a surprisingly plot twist, Remus Lupin. James isn't sure what he's going to say when he catches up to Remus. All he knows is that the look on his face when Sirius began sucking face with Adeline, random 6-year Hufflepuff they don't know much at all, Remus looked like he wanted to die. Remus's reaction is justified, James thinks, because yes, Sirius has been making out with girls at parties for years, but it is true that he hadn't for a while. Sometime towards the end of the year, Sirius started turning people down more than he agreed to hooking up with them. And James didn't think anything of it at the time because they're all growing up and maturing. It's the reason they agreed to no pranks this year, at least no school-wide ones. The reason they're practicing their skills a lot more, and James didn't spare much thought to why Sirius wasn't sleeping around because he assumed it was part of their commitment to growing up. Obviously not. The thing is, James understands why Remus had to leave the party, because if he'd had to watch Regulus kiss anyone else, he would have committed murder. Darkness and light be damned. He just wouldn't have been able to control himself. The fact that Adeline is still in one piece, still attached to Sirius's face, is testament to the absolute monster of a willpower Remus Lupin has, in James's humble opinion. He catches up to his friend in a corridor that goes nowhere. It's a dead end, and Remus will have to turn around and walk back out, because there is no exit. There are few of those in Hogwarts, courtesy of the ever-evolving magical architecture and additions from different headmasters. Remus knows better than to end up in one of these, but he is understandably not in his right mind. "Moony," James says. Remus whirls around, looks at James. "Why'd you leave the party?" The torches on the walls make the shadows in the corridor dance around them. Remus looks slightly out of sorts, eyes wide and desperate. His jaw is a tight line, like he's been clenching his teeth. James makes a step closer to his friend. "You looked upset. Are you all right?" Remus sets his shoulders, stands up tall. "I'm fine. I just got overwhelmed. Too many people." James shrugs, nods. "Okay, do you want to sit down here?" Remus looks around, seems to realize there is no way out but where he came from. With a sort of exhausted sign, he shakes his head. "No, it's okay. Let's go back to the party, yeah?" "You don't have to," James says. "If you'd rather not, I'll cover for you." Remus narrows his eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about." James is going to tell him. He's going to tell him that he knows. He's noticed, because Remus thinks he's subtle, but it's honestly obvious to anyone paying attention. Perhaps it will help if he realizes that James and Peter do not care that he likes their friend, that they'll support him if he wants to try to make it happen. But before he can speak, Remus's eyes go wide and He lunges forward, grabbing James by the arm and spinning him around so they're side by side facing the open end of the corridor. A curse flies past them, bright red. James pulls his wand out, and then he's facing Bolsover, Avery, and Dolokhov. A quick glance confirms Remus has his wand too. 2-3, not bad. They've got this. Look at what we found, Avery drawls, smirking. What are you doing out here in the middle of the night? Bolsover asks. A lower squirrel. Remus rolls his eyes. I'd say you can do better, but that might make your last brain cell explode from sheer pressure. I'd rather not have to clean sheet off the ceiling. James barks a laugh. Remus is funny when he wants to be. Biting. A little mean. The thought strikes James that Remus and Regulus could be friends in another life. It would have been nice. Avery is still taunting them, blabbing literal nonsense that James thinks is meant to upset them. This is obviously not working because Avery is an idiot and cannot even insult people properly. You think you're so fucking smart, Dolokhov says, but you're just an ugly half-blood who got lucky to be rescued by his friends. I wouldn't call falling under the two bigger blood traders in the country lucky, most of our sneakers. We should teach them a little lesson. Too bad Black isn't here, Avery says. I bet the little bitch backs if he threatened to hurt his pretty face. Oh, did you hear that, Remus? James coos. Avery thinks Sirius is pretty. The Slytherins look positively alarmed. No, I do not. James and Remus rolled their eyes at the Balaton stupidity of the three boys threatening them. Their wands are out, but they haven't made a move against them yet. First curse aimed at the back of James's hat, notwithstanding. Avery strings together a series of insults that make so little sense they're actually quite hilarious, but James isn't paying attention to him. Remus digs his elbow softly into James's ribs. They're stalling, he whispers. Something's not right. Then we take charge, James replies. No, Remus says. They'll say we started the fight. They tried to curse me behind my back, James hisses furiously. Stop thinking like a prefect and start thinking like a marauder. They both duck at once, and thank Godric for their good reflexes. 3 more Slytherins have arrived, and Remus was right. Avery, Dolokhov, and Bolsover were waiting for Snape, Lestrange, and Goyle. There is no more talking after that. Once they are outnumbering James and Remus 3-1, the Slytherins attack viciously. James and Remus split, keeping their backs to the wall and taking half the quarter each. They're cornered, but at least they can only be attacked from the front. The duel gets intense right away, because the Slytherins do not care. They're in school. The Gryffindors are holding their ground well, but they've been drinking, and there are 6 opponents to keep track of. They get cuts and burns all over, but they keep fighting through it. Their blows land, too, cause the Slytherins similar injuries. Remus has to duck to avoid the hacks when James looks over to check he's okay. James is hit by a sizzling curse that eats a good chunk of his skin on his shoulder. Shit, he cries, it hurts like a bitch. He has to change the wand to his left hand, which isn't ideal, but his right arm hurts too much for him to use it properly. Remus hits Goyle with a stunning spell that takes him out, and James retaliates against Avery's sizzling curse with a full body bind. They're 4-2 now. But James's right arm is useless and Remus is panting. The full moon was 2 nights ago and he's a lot better, but he's not in a peak physical form. James is worried they could get badly hurt. He raises his left arm, wand in hand, but he doesn't get to attack. The 4 Slytherins shoot at once, and James and Remus are forced to join their energy to sustain a shield that can deflect the curses. Remus is better at shielding than James, so his side is a little weaker. It holds, however, which gives them a moment to breathe. And then, behind the 4 Death Eaters, a 5th figure, clad in dark clothes and hood, darts from the shadows. James is about to curse their bad luck that their opponents keep getting reinforcement when the newcomer takes down 2 of them at once instead. He uses a spell James has never seen before, one that seems to suck the air out of their lungs because Snape and Dolokhov fall to their knees, clawing at the throats like they can't breathe. James can see the person's face. Their hood is down very low and there is a darkness clinging to their features that makes it impossible to identify them. Snape and Dolokhov pass out from lack of oxygen, and James would be worried if not for the flick of a wand and then the rising and falling of the chest. It's cruel, James thinks, but it's effective. Mulciber and Lestrange hesitate, and that's the opening James and Remus need. James stuns Lestrange, while Remus throws Mulciber back so hard he hits his head on the wall and falls unconscious too. A little violent, but Remus is angry. Fuck, Remus groans when the Slytherins are down. He leans against the wall and brings a hand to his ribs. James's arm is throbbing. How bad is it? Your arm looks worse, Remus replies. Then he gestures with his head to the dark figure hovering at the end of the corridor. Are you going to curse us too? You need to get away from here, he says, and James feels the words punch the air out of him. Something is wrong with his voice, but James would recognize it anywhere, no matter what. Regulus. James is walking towards him before he's got time to think, and only remembers himself when he's standing close. It helps that he cannot see his face. He's done something, James realizes. Some sort of spell to obscure his identity. For some reason, Remus is following, and it takes James a moment to understand that Remus is not trusting the stranger but him. And James should hesitate, perhaps, because if they go together, Remus will find out. But Regulus came to their aid of his own free will and is urging them away from the scene, so James follows him, Regulus at his heels. They race through the corridors away from the dead end, and the 6 Slytherins lying on the floor conscious. James's arm is shooting bursts of white-hot pain to the rest of his body with every step, but he doesn't dare stop. Remus stands next to him, valiantly fighting his body and pushing himself to keep going until they're safe. Regulus leads them into the potion classroom, of all places. He lets himself in with the key and takes from his pocket. Then he locks the door after them. He casts a series of rapid spells that James recognizes. Identification, revealing, silencing, then gestures towards the chairs. Sit, he orders before he goes to rummage through cabinets. James notices Regulus has the keys to a rather large one, and that he goes through the contents like he's known exactly where everything is. It strikes him as rather privileged, but Regulus is renowned potioner. Slughorn tells James's year all about him all the time, much to Sirius's endless irritation. James, Remus whispers. Do you know who they are? James frowns at Remus because surely he can recognize his voice too. They are prefects and have had several patrols together. You can't tell. They're wearing an obscuring spell under their hood, and they cast some sort of distortion spell on their vocal cords, Remus says. I've no idea who this is, but they feel dangerous and we've locked ourselves in a room with them. I can hear you, you know, Regulus says over his shoulder. James mutters. Trust me, I've got this, okay? Remus nods just as Regulus grabs 2 bottles from the lowest shelf and turns, approaches them and puts the bottles down. Regulus unscrews them, then smells both as though to confirm he's got the right stuff. Who are you? Remus asks, hand fluttering over the pocket where his wand is. Drink this, Regulus shoves the 1 bottle towards Remus. Or don't, and be in pain, I don't care. Then Regulus turns to James and uncaps the other bottle. Let me see your arm. James shows it to him immediately, and Regulus hisses under his breath. Fucking Avery. Hold still, this is going to sting. Hi, James says softly. He still can't see Regulus's face, but he can tell he looks up because he moves a little. Just a smidge. He doesn't say anything, though, focuses back on the task at hand. Regulus steals the bottle and catches dark purple goo in his hand. James braces himself, and Regulus spreads the goo all over the wound. It begins to boil immediately, and James can't help the cry that falls from his lips. I know, Regulus says, sounding pained, but I have to burn the curse away, or it won't heal properly. James grits his teeth, tries to behave, tries to be brave, and he is brave, but there are tears in his eyes despite his best efforts. He feels like his arm is being eaten by piranhas, like someone has taken a hot poker to it and is burning through its flesh. James cannot stop the groans and whimpers that escape him. This is incredibly painful. There is sweat running down his back and pulling in his temples. Remus is watching in absolute horror, but he's not intervening, which tells James Remus realizes this is necessary. "How did you know to do that?" Remus asks, and through the blatant distress, there's also a bit of respect, like he's impressed. Regulus shrugs. "I told you to drink that, for the bruise." If James could feel anything other than excruciating pain, he would be surprised that Remus does as told and drinks the whole thing. He makes a face of absolute disgust and mutters, "Pete's boots." So James has an idea of the sort of potion he was fed. His arms is still on fire and he's rapidly approaching his pain threshold. James might faint, and this time it's for real. He's struggling to keep his breathing steady. "Fuck, this hurts," James whimpers. "How much longer?" Regulus cups his jaw, thumb rubbing up and down over his cheek. "Hold on, just a few more moments." James isn't ashamed to admit that Regulus touching him makes it all better. Don't get him wrong, his arm still hurts so much he'd rather just cut it off at this point. But he can focus on the cool palm on his face, long fingers cradling him with care. Bringing all his awareness to that point of contact, James lets his head fall back a little bit to look onto the dark hood. Annoyingly, he still can't see Regulus's face because the man is a fucking charm genius, apparently, and his spell is watering, but it doesn't matter. James knows Regulus's features by heart. "You've got to be fucking kidding me," Remus says, all of a sudden. He jumps to his feet, walking backwards away from James and Regulus, shaking his head no. James blinks at him, and a tear runs down his cheeks, dislodged by the blinking. "James," Remus says, voice low and dangerous, almost growling. "Tell me the person fucking caressing you right now is not Regulus Black." Regulus's fingers freeze on James's face, but he doesn't withdraw. James hears the little sign of resignation and understands Regulus knew this was a risk and took it anyway to help them because he healed Mooney too. "I could," James says as calmly as he can while his arm is killing him. Couldn't Remus wait until his arm isn't on fire to do this, honestly. Disrespectful. James signs, "But then I would be lying." "Fuck," Remus shouts, bringing his hands to his hair. He's still backing away like either Regulus or James might attack him for some reason. The good news is that whatever potion Regulus gave him is clearly working, because there is no trace of pain on Remus's face. There's only panic and distress. Remus is freaking out big time and James wants to help him through it, but also his arm is pure, raw, and undiluted fucking agony. "Remus." "No," Remus says, backing away even more. He looks positively disgusted, starts cussing nonsense like a drunk sailor. "I thought he was gay. Why is he being homophobic?" Regulus deadpans. This effectively shuts Remus' strings of curses up, abruptly like someone hit a mute button. Remus stares at Regulus wide-eyed, and he finally takes off his hood. James swoons. It's not the moment for it, but he can't help it. Forget his arm. His entire body goes up in flames as soon as he sees Regulus in all his glory. "Oh, fuck," James says, breathless. "I totally get the makeup thing, Remus." Because someone put makeup on Regulus and he looks delicious, James wants to eat him. Remus makes a sound like he's choking, then stumbles forward. You what?" Regulus looks at James, a little smirk at the corner of his lips. He's one smug bastard, and James wants to kiss him so bad. But Remus is here, and at this point James has to explain, doesn't he? Where does he start? "How did you know?" Remus asks. "The rings," Remus replies. James has nothing to say to that because it makes sense. Remus is observant and smart, and he has spent a bit of time with Regulus, who is the brother of the person Remus likes. Obviously, Remus has paid attention to Regulus. Regulus would have known to be more careful if he was aware of Remus's feelings for Sirius. Apparently, Regulus has decided that he doesn't care. Remus is having a crisis. Not even a little bit. He focuses on James, and James only. This makes it hard for James to process thoughts correctly, because Regulus is wearing makeup, and it's glorious. "Hold still," Regulus says, taking his arm. "This is ready." James is incredibly relieved to feel cool water washing the potion off. When he looks down, a good chunk of his arm is still missing, but the skin looks a lot less rotten than before. Regulus begins to mutter incantations under his breath, regrowing the missing pieces of James's flesh. Remus clears his throat and James has to look away from this beautiful savor to face his friend. What the fuck, James? And James knows that Remus isn't being homophobic. He's not objecting to James seeing a boy. He's objecting to the boy being the little brother of their friend, with whom Remus is in love with. Sirius knows, James says. I told him. He's not happy, but he knows. Remus' mouth opens, closes. He blinks several times in a row. He knows? James nods, then signs and runs his not injured hand over his hair. Yes, but only him. You can't tell anyone, not even Pete. Remus slumps down on a chair, blinking a lot, very fast and a little erratic. His hands are on his lap, turned up, limp, like all his energy is going to his brain so he can process this news. He's not happy. Define not happy. Well, he freaked out at first, James says, glancing at Regulus. He's absolutely 100% not bothered, still focusing on healing James. But, well, I didn't give him much of a choice, really. Freaked out? Remus raises an eyebrow. James grimaces. He punched me. Regulus stills. His eyes flick up towards James, and James loses track of his surroundings because there is violence in Regulus's expression. Violence and that possessiveness that James shouldn't like but does, because when it comes to Regulus, James apparently likes everything. Unaware of the silent exchange between them, Remus says rather coldly, "Black." Regulus drags his eyes away from James, slowly and reluctantly. He faces Remus with eyebrows raised, like he cannot believe the audacity of Remus addressing him like he has any right to demand anything of him. Remus, who ran out of fucks to give at age 4, looks at him in the eye and asks, "Does this mean you're not a mini Death Eater? Because I remember you defending Snivellus from me. Or are you going to lie about that too?" James tenses. Every muscle in his body becomes taut like Sirius's guitar string. When does this happen? The Snivellus thing? And then he remembers that one night Pete and Remus had a little incident, and that Regulus was involved. James forgot to bring it up with him to find out what had happened. He's been distracted. But since when is Regulus friends with Snivellus? This is hands down unacceptable. James can overlook a lot of things, forgive Regulus pretty much anything, but friendship with Snivellus? Hard no. They'll have to address this sooner rather than later. And yet, James doesn't really want to talk about this. It's too soon. Too much. James wants to know, but also he doesn't, because what if Regulus is a blood purist? What if James going to do then? So long as they don't talk about it, James can pretend it's not a possibility, and that makes him a coward, but James just can't imagine not seeing Regulus again. It literally makes him to feel like everything would suddenly become meaningless. "My arm is clean," is what Regulus replies, eyes trained back on James's shoulder, like Remus's question doesn't even warrant that much of his attention. Regulus flicks his wand, then brings gentle fingers to probe at the freshly grown skin over James's shoulder. It's a little sore and tender, but the gaping hole is gone, so James calls this intervention a success. "Does it hurt?" Regulus asks him quietly. James shakes his head, smiles at him. "Thank you." Remus's eyes narrow, watching as Regulus looks up to James. "Is it going to remain that way? You're only 16. I doubt Voldemort goes around marking little boys." Regulus' hand stills on James's arm. James closes his eyes. Tired, defeated, afraid. He doesn't want to hear what Regulus says to that. Not yet. Not when he's unprepared. "Remus, now is not the time," James mutters, avoiding his friend's eyes. "No, now is absolutely the time," Remus says. "Because I know you, and you're a fucking idiot, and I'm not going to let you get involved with someone who's going to turn around and kill you as soon as we're out of school." Regulus pounces, like a lion on a hunt. One moment he's standing next to James, the next he's on Remus. He's not violent, not like his brother is. Regulus doesn't use his fists, he uses his wand, his stealth and agility, so he's positioned himself behind Remus and is holding a potion's knife to his throat. He nicks Remus's skin, just enough for a little blood to bloom. "If you ever suggest I hurt James again, I'll kill you." Remus coughs, unafraid. Fucking hell, James cannot deal with them, who allowed Remus and Regulus in the same room. "James would never forgive you if you killed me." Regulus's head cocks to the side like he's only just realizing this. He looks up at James, who is absolutely lost. A little flustered too, but he hopes Remus can't tell. Reg, please let him go. He's my friend. Regulus shoves Remus forward, eyes flashing. It brings Remus close to James, and James doesn't like it because he feels like there are sides now. Him and Remus on one, Regulus on the other. It's James's worst nightmare, and he's not ready to face it. You should go, Regulus says, sharp cutting. Both of you. James steps closer, but Regulus retreats. Go. James knows better than to push. Regulus is upset, and honestly, James can't blame him, because he came to their rescue. He looked after them and healed their wounds, and Remus repaid him by calling him a Death Eater to his face. James would be pissed, too. James nods, then gestures to the door. Remus, I'm right behind you. I'm not going to tell anyone, Remus says, looking at Regulus, because James is my best friend, and he wants me to keep the secret, so I will. But if you hurt him, I will make your life hell. Regulus smirks. It's not flirty like when he does it with James. This is cruel and so thorny it makes James want to wince, cold and full on teeth. You know nothing of hell, Lupin. The two of them seethe each other, and James thinks that Regulus would perhaps not be so cavalier if he knew that Remus's life is like. But he doesn't, so in Regulus's eyes, Remus is just an asshole. With a sharp jerk of his chin, Regulus points to the door again. Now fuck off. After that, Remus doesn't dwell. With one warning look towards James, he turns the key to the potion classrooms and slips out, leaving James with Regulus, door ajar behind them. I just wanted to tell you that you look glorious tonight, James whispers hurriedly before Regulus kicks him out again. I'm very, as in extremely into the makeup thing, he says, hopeful that Regulus will wear it again sometime, for him. A man can dream, right? Then, on a more serious tone, James adds, and I'm sorry this happened. Remus, he doesn't know you. He's just... Yeah, I'm sorry, but thank you for coming to help. A pause. Nerves and doubt squeeze his throat, but James pushes on, determined. He won't let this come between him and Regulus. I'll be on the roof tomorrow. Regulus doesn't reply. He stares at James, features hard and cold. James walks to the door, but he can't stop himself from looking over his shoulder one last time. Regulus brings his fingers to the inside of his arm. They hold each other's gaze for a heartbeat, and Regulus softens a smidge. It's enough for James to know that he too will be on the roof tomorrow. James is smiling when he closes the door behind him on the way out. Interlude, Evan POV. We've got the room to ourselves, Barty says in a seductive tone as soon as the door closes behind them. The first thing Evan does is rip his silly Batman mask off because it's been hurting his nose literally all night. Rubbing a finger over the sore skin, he glances around. Barty is right. Dorcas isn't here, which isn't surprising because they all know she was going to spend the night with Marlene. Where is Reg? Evan asks wary. He could come back any minute. Barty swings his hips, clad in that ridiculous costume that has had Evan's mouth watering all night, and closes the distance between them. We've got time. Despite his arousal, because he reacts to Barty like oil to a flame, unease spikes through Evan. He shakes his head. Too risky. Barty frowns, rolls his eyes. Really? Honestly, Evan, half the time I'm not even sure you want this. He's being baited. Barty is very good at it. He knows the buttons to push and is an expert at it. Evan knows this. It's not enough to keep himself in check. Stupidly, he rises to the challenge in Barty's eyes. And half the time I feel like you want to get caught. Barty blinks, tilts his head. Why would I do that? To get back at your father, Evan spits. There it is. The thing that has been hanging over his head since that evening Barty showed up in the dorm. Took Evan's face in his hand and snugged him like the world was going to end. Evan, who'd been hopelessly crushing on him for all of 6 years, just went with it, full on. They fell into bed and they've kind of been there since. And Evan is happy. He's happy because, have you seen Barty? He's hands down the best looking guy in all of Hogwarts, not to mention the funniest, craziest, most interesting. Evan loved Barty as a friend, and now that he's also his lover, he has reached heaven. But there's always a but, isn't there? Evan can't shake the feeling that it's too good. Something's got to give, and it's this, isn't it? Barty doesn't actually like him. Not really. It's common knowledge that Barty adores girls. Tits and round arses and whatnot. So what the hell is he doing with Evan? You keep wanting us to take stupid risks because you want us to get caught and for it to reach your father. Evan replies through gritted teeth. And I can't do this anymore. Not like this. Barty's eyes narrow and that glint of viciousness shines in them. Evan braces for it, and then Barty surprises him by calming down again and sitting on the bed. His hands fall between his knees, and he looks up at Evan with a sort of pleading look. It's making him want to forget this whole thing and kiss him until they can't breathe. No, that's not it. You're telling me you don't get a kick out of how mad your father will be if he finds out? Evan asks sharply. I'm saying that I already did that. Went through that, Barty says. The wandering. I had to figure out if I really liked boys, liked you, or if I just wanted to piss that asshole off. Evan's mouth opens, closes. He had no idea. Why didn't Barty tell him? Salazar's socks, honestly, Barty is just infuriating. And you didn't think it was a good idea to tell me this? When did this happen? How did you figure this out? Evan is bewildered. But there is also hope and relief blooming inside him, because if this is true, well then... What was I supposed to say? Barty asks, eyes wide. Evan throws his arms up, desperate to make him understand why he's so confused and wary and a little bit terrified because Evan is in deep. Barty has the power to really hurt him now, and that's scary as fuck. I don't know anything. You didn't say a word, Barty. You showed up one day and knocked the wits out of me, and that's it, really. Nothing has changed except we fuck now. Barty smirks, lifts an eyebrow. I thought you liked that. Evan groans. Seriously? Barty shakes his head, still smirking, but less smugly. What's wrong with the way things are now? You're my friend. You were my friend before all this. He gestures toward the bed with his head, making it clear that he meant by this and signs. I didn't want to lose that. I like you, I do, but I didn't want it to turn into something, I don't know how to do this. Evan sits on Reg's bed, feeling exhausted. It's like the middle of the night and they've had a few drinks. Maybe it's not the best time for this, but they're in it now and Evan has to see it through. This? I'm better at fucking than I am at talking, Barty says. I didn't want to fumble it, so I went for it. You weren't complaining. Evan smacks his lips a little frown. Barty is not wrong, per se. Perhaps he should have said something sooner. How did you figure out you were bisexual? Evan checks. Barty nods. Yeah, that. He runs a hand through his hair, then grins at Evan. I snogged the rag. Evan jumps up, just springs up from the bed like it's on fire. He cannot believe what he just heard. What? When? How? Rag? As in this rag? He points at the bed. The rag that doesn't like to be touched, even by accident. You snogged him. Tongue and everything? Barty laughs, throws his head back and full-on chortles. And Evan laughs too. He can't help it, can't do anything but laugh and laugh with Barty. Because this is so insane, but also the sort of thing that Barty would definitely do. It's also fucking hilarious, and Evan can't picture it in his head. Regulus kissing someone. Stop it. When they calm down, Evan can't find it in him to be jealous. Not of Reg. If Barty was going to trust someone with something that dangerous, it makes sense that he went to Regulus. It was crazy and fucking dangerous, but Barty and Reg are very close. As close as anyone can be to Regulus Black anyway. How did you know? I didn't know he liked boys. Evan says, curious. The sheepish look in Barty's eyes answer him. Fuck off, you didn't know either? You gambled on it? Are you Actually, yes, you are. That could have gone so wrong, Barty. It didn't, he said, shrugging. Reg's fucking good at kissing. Do I need to be worried? Evan asks, half joking. Barty scoots over on the bed, leaving an empty space between him and a clear invitation. Evan takes it. He sits down next to this boy that was his friend first and has been his lover for a few weeks. And Evan wants to make something else, something more. Barty leans into him like he can't help it. Evan basks in the feeling. I told Reg I had to be him. It had to be him because it couldn't be you, Barty says. I couldn't risk trying to figure my shit out with you because I felt things. I still do. What things? Evan asks. How would I know? I've never felt them before. Not for any of the girls. That was always, fun, like brilliant, but just physical. With you I don't... Barty trails off, then looks into Evan's eyes firmly. I don't want to get caught, Evan. I just can't keep my fucking hands off you, so any chance I see, I want to take. Evan nods. He can accept this. Barty is and has always been impulsive, and Evan is and has always been too cautious. They'll have to learn to meet in the middle, balance each other. And he can do that, he thinks. He's excited even. He puts an arm over Barty's shoulder, tucks him in close. Alright, well, if Reg catches us, it's his problem, I guess. Evan says, dipping his face to kiss Barty's neck. Barty turns, finds his mouth. They kiss and it drops Evan off breath. Barty claims Reg is good at kissing, but Evan thinks it's just that Barty is so amazing at it, it's impossible for anyone to fumble it. Barty kisses like he fucks, with everything he has every single time. Intent, dirty, but in the best way. They break apart, panting. Clothes begin to fall. They climb in and close the curtains, and for a moment they just look at each other. Naked, vulnerable. Be my boyfriend, Barty blurts. You're my boyfriend, right? That's what it is. Evan's heart goes a little shimmy. He beams and pushes Barty so he falls backwards on the bed. Yes. Evan kisses him. Yes, again. And yes.